Hari Om. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम् Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all to this first special session on Advaita Prakarana. As you are aware, we are going to have a one-day retreat on Advaita Prakarana on Sunday, 11th August 2024 at Jayaram Seva Mandali, Bangalore. To prepare all of us for that retreat, and since we are yet to study Advaita Prakarana, Dr. Hegde sir felt that an orientation session will help us to understand the topic. This orientation course will be in two parts. The second part will be on next Saturday, 10th of August 2024. In the first chapter titled Agama Prakaranam, we completed the study of Mandukya Upanishads 2, which has 12 mantras. In that first chapter, Gaudapada wrote general notes on the Upanishad in 29 karikas. In the following three chapters, Gaudapada Acharya focuses on the seventh mantra of the Upanishad, which is the main teaching of the Upanishad through karikas. In the seventh mantra, Brahman was revealed as Turiya Atma. In this mantra, every word is important, but two are very profound. One is Prapanchopashamanam, free from the world, and the second is Advaitam, non-dual. Gaudapada aims to bring out the full significance of these two words. The significance that he extracts is Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. Prapanchopashanam was analyzed in second chapter. Instead of using the word Prapanchopashamanam, Gaudapada uses the word Vaitatyam. Vaitatyam and Mithya are synonymous. Mithya means that the waking world we experience now is only a conditional reality like the dream world. Then what is absolutely real? It is I, the observing consciousness principle alone. I, the Turiya Atma alone is the Satyam. I am the PSE, the projector, sustainer, and the experiencer of the waking world. This was established in Vaitatya Prakaranam. The third chapter of the Mandukya Karika is titled Advaita Prakaranam. In the third chapter, Gaudapada takes up another profound word, Advaitam, for an elaborate analysis, and so the chapter is called Advaita Prakaranam, and it consists of 48 verses. With this background, I request Dr. Hegde sir to introduce us to the third chapter. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Venkatesh, not only for a very beautiful introduction, but also to make all the arrangements at a very short notice. And thanks to each one of you. So many of you have already joined us for a class on very short notice. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om. Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vashishtam Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parascharam Cha Vyasam Sukham Gaudapadam Mahantam. When you are looking at the hierarchy of how knowledge has come to us, one method is Sadashiva, from Sadashiva. The other is from Narayanam, Brahmaji, Vashishtam, his son Shaktim, his son Parasharam, that is Vyasacharya's father. Vyasacharya's son, the great Sukham. Sukham is considered one of the great persons. His student is Gaudapada Acharya. And the name Gauda has come from northern Bengal. It is supposed to said he had walked from northern Bengal all the way to Badrinath. This whole scenario of the Mandukya Karika is in the beautiful background of the Badrinath Kshetra. In Badrinath Kshetra, he had the inspiration from the great teacher Shukam, and he had the inspiration, and Gaudapada Acharya is considered as Mahantam because Advaita, as we know, clearly has been brought out by him. And of course, his great student, the grand student of his, that means Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya, student Sri Shankaracharya, has propagated this. And normally, Shankaracharya is seen as the great Advaitin, but his grand guru, Gaudapada Acharya. And the more as we study the Mandukya Karika, you will refer to Gaudapada Acharya as Mahantam. Why this introduction? Why this special introduction? We are extremely lucky to have great acharyas like Swami Paramarthananda and Swami Anubhavananda. Swami Paramarthananda, most of the time online or on recorded audios. Swami Anubhavananda, who comes once a year. And the last call I got just before this was Swami Anubhavananda ji himself, speaking about his next visit to Bangalore. And that is a real blessing for me, just as I was about to start this class. Last year, Swamiji was taking a session for us on Tripti Deepa Prakarana. And that was a week-long retreat in the ambience of Murudeshwar. And as this retreat was coming to an end, I was thinking what we shall have the next year. And after Tripti Deepa, and Tripti Deepa was certainly an advanced class, I asked Swamiji if we can have Mandukya Upanishad with karikas. And he agreed. And this whole year after Kathopanishad has been a preparation to study what is really the Gauri Shankar among the Upanishads. Gauri Shankar means the Everest. I don't think there is a greater peak than what we are going through, this Advaita Prakaranam. The Advaita Prakaranam is a peak. Of course, in the Brahma Sutras, it is going to be another similar sort of a text. But if you see among the Shrutis, the Mandukya and the Mandukya Karikas can be considered as the Gauri Shankar or the summit. Now, to reach the summit, for example, Mount Everest, or even if you're going to a place like high altitude like Mount Kailash, we cannot suddenly go towards Manasarovar or Kailash base because it is high altitude. We go through base camp 1, stay there for some time, base camp 2, base camp 3, and then in the climb towards Everest, the final climb is called the assault. We are in the assault stage. The assault stage is a tough stage, and this is what all our preparation is for. And we are so lucky because we have this a great teacher, Swami Anubhavananda, who's going to teach us this later this year in November. Now we have about 48 karikas of Advaita Prakaranam to study. That will take us 3 months, and 3 months from now will be the retreat. The great His Holiness Swami Shankara Bharati offered on his own to spend time. And I requested if he will tell us. In the last occasion, it was Vaitatya Prakaranam. And this time, I suggested whether he would do Advaita Prakaranam for us. Whenever he takes this assignment, he takes it very, very sincerely. He will do his very best for us in trying to bring out. And this is done in a form of a one-day program. And when I looked into this, I found that there was a real difficulty. So I said, let us look into it ourselves. So my salutations to His Holiness Swami Shankara Bharati and to our great teacher, Swami Anubhavananda ji, as I begin this little orientation to all of you, and our Paramaguru, Swami Paramarthananda. Dear friends, this session is going to be really informal, although it is being recorded. At each stage or at any stage, I want you to indicate. You can really interrupt me. You could interrupt me at any stage and make a clarification. And only once there is a little clarification, we will proceed from slide to slide. We are studying Advaita. In Advaita, it means there is no two, there is no second. Now, this is the frightening part of Advaita. Now, until now, we have been talking about triangular format. The triangular format is relatively easy for a religious person. I am the Jiva, limited person. The whole world is around me, which is giving me enough trouble. And to protect myself, I go to the Ishvara. So this is the Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara triangle. In my world itself, I have people whom I consider as my people, those whom I like and not my people. So there is a feeling of mine and not mine. Those which are mine, I have to protect and preserve. Those who are not mine, does not matter. I have to see how I can protect my own possessions and my people and not my people. So this is how the world goes on. This is the whole story. And whenever the difficulty becomes more, then there is always Ishvara. We have to go to Ishvara and say, forgive me for what I have done is wrong. And I need this, and that's a proper business deal or a proper deal. Of course, we have all evolved from Sakama to Nishkama and so on. When we are studying Mandukya, there is no Jiva. That means the limited body mind is not there. Although I see this world, the world is negated. And the great difficulty is there is no Ishvara. I didn't want to tell you, but this has come into my mind. I will tell you. Imagine you are flying in a plane. Everything is going smooth. This is on an international flight. The engine roar is going on. The air hostess is supplying food to everybody, and everybody is watching a movie. Each one is happy by themselves. And suddenly you get a message, no pilot, no pilot. Now, it comes as a shock. What does no pilot mean? If there is no pilot, means we are doomed. But then everything is going smooth. The food is going to be served. The engine roar is going on. The aeroplane is flying very smoothly. Now, suddenly when you say, no Jiva, no Jagat, no Ishvara in real terms, your whole foundation begins to shake, because in Advaita, it means other than me, there is nothing. There is nobody. There is no Jiva, no Jagat, no Ishvara. That is why when we are going through, one of our students asked this class, now I'm confused, whom to pray, what to pray. One of the instructions for all of us is during this period, as long as we have this body, our body has physical needs. We regularly eat food, we drink water, our body needs rest. Please understand, let us be as ordinary as possible, even when we are going through Advaita Prakaranam. That means we do our normal religious prayer practices. We don't have to change the way we relate to God. You can even do Sakama Prarthana. You can even do special prayers. But Swamiji has a request. You still worship your Ishta Devata like before. In fact, he says do more, but reduce on special prayer for yourself and family, because that is going to strengthen Ahankara, Mamakara. And if you can do that, that is one of the subtle ways that you can prepare for Advaita Drishti. This is Swamiji's advice. From now on, I am open to interruption. I will not call it interruption. The whole session becomes more meaningful whenever somebody can unmute and ask a question. So I'm open to that at any stage. This is Swamiji's opening advice when he is giving us his introduction to Swamiji, means Swami Paramarthananda. He says, this Advaita Prakaranam is the most important chapter of Mandukya and the Mandukya Karika. And he says not only that, it may seem a little exaggeration, but he says this is the most important chapter of the entire Vedanta. And he says, before you begin, Remember, you have to revise the first chapter. We are studying Advaita Prakaranam and we forget the 12 mantras of Mandukya, of which he says the first 7 mantras are very important, of which the 7th mantra is very important. As Venkatesh Prasad has introduced the Vaitatya Prakaranam based on Prapanchopashamam, this Advaita Prakaranam is based on one word, Prapanchopashamam, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Chaturtam, Manyante, and so on. Also, we may forget what are these karikas. What are these karikas from 10 to 18? Most of them are the glory of the 7th mantra. And then 16, 17, and 18th karikas are particularly important. That means 10 to 15 are elaborating or giving the glorious of the 7th mantra. And then 16th, 17th, and 18th are talking about some important karikas which we all should know. So this has already been explained. Prapanchopashamam, Shantam, Shivam, Advaita. All right. Now, an overview of Advaita Prakarana. And whatever I have marked on the slide in red is what I'm planning to do in today's class. We are going to have it in 2 sessions. Today will be the first session. So karikas 1 and 2, the 2 introductory karikas are important, where whatever I'm speaking is actually the introduction based on the first 2 karikas. Karika number 3 to 30 is based on a unique concept which is very strongly brought out by Gaudapada Acharya, which is called Ajati vada. Ajati vada means no creation. This is exactly what we call as binary format. That means that is actually brought out in Prapanchopashamam. There is, although I see the world like a dream world. It is not as real as it is. So from 3 to 30, it is Shrishti Nisheda. Just like in the Vaitatya Prakaranam, it was based on 2 things. It was based on Shruti and it was based on Yukti, that is logic. So too, logically and through Shastra, we will say there is no Jiva, there is no Jagat that is brought out. That is in the next class, next Thursday, and it will be put up on YouTube on Saturday. It will be about Atma Jnanam, and he introduces 2 new terms. And the new terms are Atma Sathya Anubodha. Very nicely, we will elaborate on it. So it is same Brahma Jnanam brought out on a new term called anubodha. Anu means after, bodha means once spiritual knowledge has come. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam. Gocharam means I have grasped. I have grasped the Siddhanta, the essence of all Vedanta is called Anubodha. What happens when a person becomes an anubodhi? That means he becomes wise, he becomes spiritually enlightened. He attains to a stage of what is called asparsha yoga. Sparsha means to touch. Asparsha means no touch. If I can use a word, untouchable. So it is Mandukya's untouchability. What is the untouchability in Mandukya? You have to understand is I cannot be touched by anything that happens to this body, mind, or the world around. That means once you have Atma Satyanubodha, once you become spiritually wise, then you attain to that Paramarthika state of vision. You live like in this world, in the same body, like a Jivan Mukta, but you are not going to be affected. You are going to be untouchable. That is the height of your FIR. That means Swamiji says, from what to so what. Now, this is possible through amanee bhava. I'm actually going into the next class to explain all this. Amanee bhava. Man means mind. Aman means no mind. Mano nasha or mano laya. See, when we are fast asleep, we have no problems because our mind is in laya. But through spiritual knowledge, we have to do what is called mano nasha. We will deal with that. And once spiritual knowledge comes, we have to do. In the last class, I spoke about the importance of nididhyasana. It is not how much you know, how much you have assimilated and put it out into action. And that is what is called nididhyasana. And then finally, just like the Vaitratya Prakaranam concluded with a very powerful karika. What is karika number 32? Na nirodho, na cha utpatti. So too, karika 48 will conclude with the highest of teaching. And the highest of teaching, you have reached the pinnacle of Mount Everest. And then, when you go to the next prakaranam, what is the last prakaranam? That is called Alata Shanti Prakaranam. And when you go to Alata Shanti Prakaranam, the great Gaudapada Acharya, who is in Badrinath, now makes a prostration to Lord Narayana of Badri Kshetra. You know, that will be the paradox. He is sitting in such a holy place, and the great Advaitin teacher will prostrate. Of course, he'll prostrate to his Guru, and he'll say, but he's referring, Guru and Narayana will all come. So you will see there is a combination of a feeling of when you attain to the pinnacle of bhakti, you have attained to oneness with God, but you still have the same sense of reverence to God. And that is how the great Advaita Prakaranam will conclude. Right from the beginning of this chapter, now, both Adi Shankara, of course, in his commentary and commentary to all these karikas, and Gaudapada Acharya, if he has to project Advaita, he has to hammer Dvaita. And when the hammering of Dvaita comes, we will feel hurt because, in essence, all of us are bhaktas, all of us are devotees. We have a great reverence to God. And when God is sort of taken away from you, and sometimes taken away forcibly, within our own study group,
last button.
In our own study group, we will have people who come from Vishishta Dvaita and who are come from the Dvaita school. When Gaudapada Acharya and Adi Shankaracharya are negating Dvaita, remember, Dvaita and Vishishta Dvaita, as we know today, was not in existence during the days of Gaudapada Acharya or Adi Shankara, because Adi Shankara preceded both these great teachers by many centuries. Ramanujacharya came many centuries later. Madhvacharya, the great proponent of Dvaita, came many centuries afterwards. But when he says Dvaita, he refers to the four schools of Buddhism, Jainism, Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, Nyaya, and all these other schools which have a dualistic viewpoint and which cannot agree with Advaita Vedanta. From now on, or at any moment, as I said, I am open for a discussion, but let the discussion be short. And shall I proceed? I will proceed. Now let us see the definition of the word Advaita. Advaita really means moving from the triangular format to the binary format. Now, all of us are religious people. We have been religious from the Jiva Jagat Ishvara angle. Now, Swamiji has carefully taken us from the triangular format to the binary format. In the binary format, there is only one reality. I, the speaker, and you, the listener. Whoever is listening and the one speaker, you are or I am the only reality. So everything else, we studied in Vaitratya Prakaranam, whatever you see and experience is of a lower order of reality. That means I'm seeing my body, mind, I'm seeing my family, I'm seeing my house, I'm seeing everything around me. All these are mithya. I, the observer, the sakshi, is the Sathya, and this is what is called Advaita. That means other than me, there is nothing. Now, when you say other than me, there is nothing, that means there is only one. But you don't say eka, you will say not two. Why are you saying not two? Simply because I'm experiencing multiplicity. The whole understanding of Advaita is, in spite of multiplicity, can I be able to see the one? Rabindranath Tagore had said, give me that grace to be able to see that one in the play of the many. Thou hast made me friend, known to people whom I knew not. Thou hast made me friends to people whom I know not. Thou hast given me homes in people whom I never knew. And have made a brother of the stranger. I feel uneasy at heart when I have to leave my accustomed shelter. I forget there exists the old and the new, and there also thou exist. Now, one way is to see God in everybody, or one way is to see you in everybody. So, in either way, gradually the differences between Atma and Anatma go away. Now, to explain what is Advaita, they will ask you, can you separate the singer from the song? Can you separate the dancer from the dance? Can you separate the creator from the creation? That means when you look at the creation, can you come in touch with the creator? And the frightening thing is that Atma Tattva within you will one day experience that my eva sakalam jatam. This whole world has come into being because of me. This whole world is sustained because of me. And this whole world will resolve into me. And this understanding, which I will elaborate in our next class and will field certain questions, is what is brought out in Advaita Prakaranam as Drishti Srishti Vada. That means I am the one who's creating the whole world. Certainly in the dream world, I am the creator, I am the sustainer, and the whole world resolves into me. There, Drishti Srishti Vada is clear. But when I wake up, what happens? Through Maya Shakti, that means I identify myself as Atma, my eva sakalam jatam. And through this strength, we all love that Mahavakya from Kaivalya, but now see that from the Mandukya perspective of Drishti Srishti Vada. And because of me, the whole world has come into being. This whole world is sustained by me as Atma, not this limited body mind. Forget this limited body mind for now. This limited body mind cannot do anything. But that Atma Tattva has the ability to create, to sustain, and to resolve. Therefore, when the whole world is nothing but a projection of me, I now have the ability to see myself in everybody. Although I see differences, I do not differentiate. And this is what is called love as identification. For example, a mother and a child. The mother never sees the child as apart from her, because that is why the mother's love for a child is considered the highest form of love, because this is love as identification. But you will see the same mother will protect her child from another child who is not me. Can you see the Veda Baba has come? There is a Veda to her child, but there is a difference for somebody else. So, when the love becomes universal, then the whole world is included, and that is why Advaita is the greatest philosophy, where you can include Islam, where you can include Christianity, include Buddhism, Jainism. Advaita has no problems with everybody because Advaita is all inclusive. There is a beautiful verse from Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra. And this is Advaita Prakaranam. See, whenever we study Mandukya, so Mandukya and Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra, I think we have to study in parallel, because both of them come from the vision of Drishti Srishti Vada, and the pinnacle of Advaita Vedanta comes in Mandukya Karika. I will go through word by word. Vishwam Pashyati. This world is experienced by me. Karya Karanataya. in the form of cause and effect. Saswami sambandataha, in the form of I am the Swami, I am the possessor of all my objects, and these are all my possessions. So whenever you wake up into the world, and this waking up happens in the dream and in the waking state, there is a feeling of I am the master of all these objects and all these persons. And then there is a duality, Shishya Acharya Tata. That means Acharya Taya. Tata eva pitra putra adaya. Adaya means example, like father and son. Atmana vedataha. There is a feeling of me and not me. This feeling of me and not me happens when in swapne and jagrate. That means in deep sleep, all of us have a beautiful experience of Advaita. In deep sleep, there is no problem. We are in a state of Advaita. The moment we wake up, and our greatest friend is my mind, but my mind is my greatest enemy. The mind makes me Vishwa and the whole world as Virat. And there is a feeling of me, my possession, my teacher, my father. This happens in Swapne, Jagrate, Ya Esha Purusha. Purusha means the Lord, the same person who said some time ago, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam. This great person now, Maya Paribhramitaha, completely deluded by Maya. That means the delusion happens the moment we wake up. The moment we wake up, Maya deludes us. That is why when you put your feet into the ground, be like Shri Dakshinamurti and pray to the Lord, Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam, Shri Dakshinamurtaye. That means even when I wake up and in my waking state, can I have that advaitha bhava? That means this whole world is an extension of me. Isha vasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. With this, I come to the opening karika. I will pause for a moment. I've spoken for 28 minutes. I can have 1 or 2 minutes for interaction if anybody wants to ask me any questions.
I have a question. Like, how can I separate myself from the experiences? I experience things, right? So,
see, that's what I said. I see differences. But then sometimes, I've told you this example many times. My own teeth can bite my own tongue. Within me, there is somebody who's hurt, somebody who is hurting. Although my teeth has bitten my tongue, will I be angry with my teeth for having bitten my tongue and punish him? Sometimes your own child does something against you. So what will you do? Your child is none other than you. Are you going to punish your child? These are sometimes you swallow. Why? Although I see differences, I don't differentiate, Dola. So I know if you can do this with your own body, if you can do it with your own children, if you can do it with your own family, like Mother Teresa, who had that vision, whatsoever I do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. These are the words of Jesus. And she was inspired by that. So whatsoever you do to the poorest of the poor, that is service to me. And she felt that she could see Jesus in the poor people, and serving those poorest of poor is serving Jesus. So when you're able to extend your vision beyond, why? Because you're able to see God in the poorest, the God in the suffering. So can we have that vision, Dola? Shall I proceed? Sure. This is the first karika. And this karika is a very powerful karika. This is an introductory karika. And with my limited knowledge of Sanskrit, here he is going to give a big hammering. hammering on the upasakas. Now, that's what I said. All this preparation is for this first karika. So you can see the hammering begins right away. Upasana ashrito dharma jate brahmani vartate. Now, whenever you become an upasaka, whom do you do upasana to? To that Brahman who's not Parabrahman, but a manifest Brahman. Even Rama, even Krishna, even Anjaneya are all Jate Brahmani. Now, all these are in the field of duality. So, in the first verse itself, he's hammering anybody who's doing any form of upasaka. Because what he is accepting is an upasaka has a feeling, just like I told you, when I was fast asleep, I was in Advaita. When I wake up, I'm in Dvaita. When I go back to sleep, I'm in Advaita. Now, before I was born, there is a beautiful verse that comes from Chandogya, where the boy, who is the father, I forget the name of the boy and the father. Not Shaunak. Whose father's name is?
Aruni.
Aruni. He's got another name. Shvetakeshu's father.
Is it Uddalaka, sir?
Uddalaka. Uddalaka tells Shvetaketu, Sad eva saumya idamagram asid, ekam eva advitiyam. In the beginning, it was all Advaita. Sad eva saumya idamagram asid, ekam eva advitiyam. So what does an upasaka? Prak utpatte. Utpatte means creation. Before this creation came into being, all of us were in the state of Advaita. And once creation has come, then we have come into the field of Dvaita. So initially Advaitam, now I'm in the field of Dvaita. Now I'm praying to my Ishta Devata. Why? With the hope, and this is all, those who pray for Krama Mukti. That is why our teacher says, don't rely too much on Krama Mukti. The 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is all about Krama Mukti. That means you become an upasaka, and once you die, what happens? Your Ishta Devata will take you through Shukla Gati, you go to Brahmaloka, and there you go through the same process. But are we going to get a visa for that? We do not know. And then he uses Tena Asau Kripana Smrita. Such a person can be considered as a Kripanaha. Kripanaha means, all of us are Parabrahma, Paramatma. But then when you don't see your true wealth of who you are, you have become utterly small. You have become a Kripanaha. And he uses a very strong word, the word Kripanaha. Now, although there is a condemnation of Upasana and the Upasya Devata, this is what Swami Paramarthananda says, continue to be an upasaka, but avoid special prayers. From Sakama, go to Nishkama. From Nishkama, go to Bhakti. Now, can our path be Bhakti? Initially, of course, Eka Rupa, Aneka Rupa, and Arupa, because this cannot happen suddenly. There will be a certain transition required, but in this life itself, we have to move to Arupa and work on the path for Jivan Mukti itself. In the Bhashyam for this particular verse, Adi Shankara gives a quotation from the Talavakara Upanishad. What is the Talavakara Upanishad? See, have we studied the Talavakara Upanishad? We have, because we do not know the name. See, the name might have changed. The name now we know is Kenopanishad. In the Kenopanishad, see, you are listening to me because of what you are able to listen to me. Yad vacha abhyutitam yena vag abhiyudyate tadeva brahmatvam viddhi na edam yaditam upasate. So he says that God that you worship to in your puja and your temples, that is not the real Brahman. Na edam yaditam upasate, not the ones that you are worshipping. Then what? But he says, because of that consciousness, because you are able to speak, you're able to listen. Yad vacha, Atma is something that cannot be understood by speech or mind. Vacha and manas go there and nivartate, aprapya manasa saha. You remember that quoting? See, Brahman is something that cannot be understood by the speech or by mind, but that consciousness because of which your mind is functioning, but because of which you are able to speak, the Keno Upanishad says that is the real Brahman. See, whenever we study Keno Upanishad, Swamiji's Swami Paramarthananda refers it to a chili. Like if you have bitten a chili, you feel that pungency. You feel that when you study the Mandukya Karikas, because there is a hammering on our tendency to do upasana. And he uses this word karpanya. Venkatesh, please chant this verse for me.
Karpanya doshopahata svabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yacheyah syanti nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhi mam tvam prapannam.
Thank you very much, Venkatesh. In between, whenever I request you, I will ask you maybe to read a slide or give me a little break. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, the word karpanyam comes at least twice. And let me see if anybody, you can interrupt and tell me where is the second time this karpanyam comes. What is the word? Karpanyam comes from kripanaha. Kripanaha means miserly. Hello? Miserly. Arjuna suddenly discovers his miserly status. And then he surrenders to Lord Krishna and he says, make me a. Where else in the Bhagavad Gita? Maybe you can answer it in the next class if you are not able to immediately say. But if somebody knows, I'm not going to give you a hint.
5th chapter, sir.
I won't tell you. Okay, I'll tell you it is in the 2nd chapter only. This is also in the 2nd chapter. In the 2nd chapter, the word karpanya comes once again. So the word karpanya, kripana palahetavaha. So now you will know where it is. Kripana palahetavaha. I think it comes in verse 39 of the 2nd chapter. That means that upasaka who is praying to the Lord for, such a upasaka is a businessman upasaka only, and most of our business with the Lord is only business. I'll do this for you and you do. I'll give you my hair and I'll give you some 500 rupees and you do a big deal for me. So that is the kripanataha. And one more nice quotation where Yajnavalika tells Gargi, but this is where he uses the word kripanaha. But I find this quote very meaningful. Venkatesh, please read this for me.
Vedanta Vijnana Sunischitarthaha Sanyasa Yogadyataya Shuddha Sattvaha Te Brahmaloke tu Parantakale Paramrutat Parimuchyanti Sarve.
Thank you very much. This is one of my favorite verses, and I keep telling you 100 times. Please tolerate this. Vedanta Vijnana. Vedanta Vijnana means the Tatparyam. The Tatparyam means the essence. What is the essence of all Vedanta? Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. That means between me and Paramatma, there is no Veda at all. Sunishtitartha. That understanding should be what? The Mahavakya, which comes in the 2nd mantra of Mandukya. I am Atma Brahma. This is what is called Vedanta Vijnana Sunishtitartha Sannyasa Yoga Yata Shuddha Sattva. Such a person Te Brahma Loke Paranta Kale. So all of us sleep, but we wake up. All of us die, but we are reborn. But that person who has got Vedanta, Vijnana, Sunishtitartha, that person attains to what? Paranta Kale. There is no coming back. Na nivartante. Such a person does not. Paramritam parimuchante sarve. He has given up everything. He attains to the highest. Then what happens? They are honored in Brahmaloke and there is no coming back. This is possible for a Jivan Mukta. A Jivan Mukta, that means one who plans to attain to Jivan Mukti state in this life itself. So, Vedanta, Vijnana, Sunishtitartha, can this be our goal? In Yajnavalkya, tells Gargi in one of the Upanishad, it must be Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also. See, these are all quotations by Adi Shankara. And in our class, all our class, that is the class on the 11th is going to be based on Shankara Bhashyam. So wherever there are examples from Shankara Bhashyam, I'll bring that to your alert, because when they speak to you, you will be able to correlate. He uses the word kripana again. He says, if a human being who has lived as a human being, as a glorious, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, such a person, if you have not attained to this Vedanta Vijnana Sunishtitartha, such a person is called a Kripanaha. He is a miserable person. These are harsh words and strong words. And whenever strong words are used, it is mainly to whip us. But of course, there is a lot of compassion that comes with the teacher. Now, the second word is a pratignya. This is the promise. Right in the beginning, our teacher, Gaudapada Acharya, gives us a promise. Atha. Atha means therefore. Vakshyami. I am going to teach you. I am going to speak to you about what? Akarpanyam. Akarpanyam. The limitless one. I am going to teach you about Brahman. And all the rest of the words are adjectives. Beautiful. See, the whole of the Gaudapada Karikas is beautiful poetry. Mandukya is in prose form. The Karikas are in poetic form. Ajati, that means that which is never born. Samatam. Samatam means, there is no Veda, no Swagata Veda, no Sajatiya Veda, no Vijatiya Veda, no Swagata Veda. Maybe sometimes during question time we can ask, what is this Samatam? That means there are no parts, there are no components in Brahman at all. That which has Gatam, that has attained to that uniform, homogeneous state where there is no parts. Like in space, there are no parts. Yata na jayate kinchit, from which nothing can be born. Why? Brahman is akarta. Brahman cannot do anything. The infinite can never become the finite. Jayamanam samantataha. Although it looks like so many things have come out of Brahman. If you look at the world around, what a wonderful world of such greatness. But he says they have come because you experience them. But just like a dream, I want you to say, just like your dream, it is Jayamanam. It is not so real. It is only an appearance. From now on, you should use the word as if, as though. The whole creation is as though, as if. So I will read this for you. This is the promise that he is going to tell you. You know why he gives you the promise? And towards the end, before the 48th Karika, he's going to tell you, have I lived up to this promise that I made? I shall teach you about Ajati vada. I will teach you that there is nothing like creation. Brahman, which is beyond karya karanam. That means the infinite cannot become the finite. Therefore, there can be no product that comes out of Brahman. Yata na kinchit jayate. Nothing can be born out of Turyam. Jayamana samantataha. Even though there is an appearance of things that are constantly being born. Okay. Now I have finished 49 minutes. I have only about 10 minutes more. In 10 minutes, I'm going to give you an orientation of the whole chapter, that the next 30 karikas. I finished only 2 karikas. But what are we going to do until karika 30? He logically negates jiva. He will say, no jiva is born out of Brahman. No jiva is born out of Brahman. Up to karika number 9, he will give you like very strong reasoning to say no jiva is born out of Brahman. Karika 10, no world is born out of Brahman. That means yukti. Based on yukti, he will say nothing is born out of Brahman. And then there will be scriptural negation of Shrishti, scriptural negation of the Jagat. This will go on into up to karika number 30. So ultimately what happens is you are given a very clear understanding. See, although everything is based on Shruti, the Shrutis, that means the 7th mantra has said, Prapancho Pasham Mamam Shantam Shivam Advaita. So we are based this on Shruti. But if you have to be convinced, it has to be based on Yukti. In Karika number 3, I'm not going into the detail of this Karika. He is going to give you, like in Vaithatya Prakaranam, I spoke to you about the Nariman point. And the whole of Vaithatya Prakaranam was based on one strong argument that whatever is an object of experience or anything that is impermanent is not real. So too, he will give you a very, very strong argument. And what is that strong argument? Before I go to that, few terms, because as I said, we are going into a class where people will be teaching us with Shankara Bhashyam. We have to know a few terms. What is this Parinamavada? There are certain schools of philosophy which talk of Parinamavada. That means the creator transforms into the creation. Just like milk transforms into butter, there is a transformation. There is a change that happens. But in Advaita Vedanta, we don't believe in Parinama, that there is no change at all from the creator to the creation. And this no change or an apparent change, remember these terms, is called Vivartavada. Vivartavada is of 2 types. One is called Pratibimba-vada. And for example, you see the sun and you see the reflection of the sun in not one bucket, but hundreds of sources of water. You see hundreds of suns, but it is still the original that is reflected. So there has been no change. So that effulgent, Bargaha Devasya Dhimahi is the same, which is whether it is reflected from Ganga or in a pool of water, that reflection is the same. That is what is called Pratibimba Vada. In this chapter, we are going to talk about Avacheda Vada. Avacheda, he's going to give you a pot example. The pot example, that means the pot and the space. And what is this called? Let me go to the next one. So you have Gatakasha, or the pot space, and the Mahakasha, or the total space. Now, for the pot space to merge with the total space, should I break the pot? Yes or no?
No.
No, please, and from now on, please answer questions like this. See, there is no need to break because space is all pervasive. In fact, pot is within the space. Now, if you look at the picture of an atom, even a single atom, in the center, there is neutrons, protons. In the periphery, there are electrons. Even in an atom, 99% of an atom is only space. That is the most pervasive element is space. Even on a solid wall is full of space. Now, when you create a pot, the pot space is only seeming within the total space. So at no time, there is a separation between pot space and total space. Now, this is called the Akasha Drishtanta pot example. The Gatakasha or the pot space is the Jivatma. Mahakasha or the total space of Paramatma. This slide is very important. I can use this for discussion. 10 karikas come from this slide itself, and this slide summarizes 10 karikas. Now, whenever you create a pot, there are 5 misconceptions, and whatever happens to the pot happens to us also as Jivatma. When a pot is created, you have a feeling that pot space is born out of total space. This is called Utpatti. So all of us celebrate our birthday that I have been born out of God, so I am other than God. So I have come from God. Purnat Purnamudachyate. I have come from there. See, when you learn Advaita, you will see fallacies in all the scriptures. Purusha eva idam vishwam. How can this world come out of Purusha? Because the Vyavahara cannot come out of Paramartha. Nasha. Can the pot space, see, the pot can be destroyed, but the pot space can never be destroyed. The space is undisturbed by creating the pot or the destruction of the pot. Now, second, dosha. Supposing there is something that is causing smell or contamination or dirt because of the other elements. That means because of some matter which is dirty, some liquid that is dirty, because of some air that is dirty, there is a feeling of some dosha within that pot. But can it affect the space? The space is asangaha asanga. Now, because one pot is small, one pot is big, one pot is porcelain, one is beautifully done. Now, there are varieties of pot space. So, in all of us, there are certain visheshata. But this visheshata has nothing to do with the pot space. The pot space is nitya, shuddha, buddha, muktaha. It is not affected at all. And finally, sambandha. You feel jivatma and paramatma, pot space and total space. Now, sambandha happens for between two, between pot space and total space. If you have understood this, you have got that Nariman point of, and all the rest of these karikas. That means when a pot is broken, it merges with the total space. There is really no destruction. Nothing happens when there is no speciality that I am better than you. No one is superior to me. No one is inferior to me. These are all misconceptions. The pot space cannot be contaminated. Now, the Sankhya philosopher will say, okay, you are saying that everybody is the same. That means if the one pot space is sorrowful because of some problem, that means everybody is going to be sorrowful. What will the teacher say? See, even in fact, sorrow cannot affect the space, because the space is asanga. So he will negate how any contamination in one cannot affect the total. This is Karika number 5. In Karika number 6, he talks about the variety, about, multiplicity is only seeming. Then what is this Karika number 7? So there can be no modification, there is no part, there is no whole. It is only those who are like children, balanam, are those people who say the pot can be contaminated. Sometimes you'll say there is so much of pollution in the air, the whole space is contaminated. In places like Delhi, you'll say there is so much of smog, the space is polluted. Space can never be polluted. Only the ignorant, there can be particles in the air. The air can be polluted, the water can be polluted, the space. And we're talking about Atma in comparison to space. That is the space in all of us. The real me is anaga. Anaga is something that cannot be contaminated, cannot be affected. So one of these karikas, I think Karika 8 or 9 says, pollution belongs to the container. It is falsely transferred to the content or to the space. Then, therefore, there is no death. There is no coming and going of the pot space. The arrival and departure is only seeming or apparent. It is not real. Now, we have come to Karika number 10. Up till now, we have negated the birth of the Jiva because there is no birth, no death. Now, if you have understood this mantra, na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita naya ajaha nityaha sashvata purana na hanyate hanyamani sharire. Clear? That refers to us. Now, we have the pot now. So he has given us one example. All right, we are talking about, we agree that there is no birth of the Jiva. But what about the space? Is there birth of the Jagat? Now he uses a very nice word. He says, all this is the work of Maya. Atma Maya. Because of my own Maya, this is, and the Maya is able to delude us. And in the 10th one mantra, he says, in one karika, he negates logically Jagat or creation. Up to 10, it is Jiva. I have not clearly explained about this. How do we negate the pot? By saying the pot is mithya, the pot is a product of Maya. All right, I'll read this if this makes some clarification. Since Gaudapada is accepting that the pot body are born, does it mean that the pot or the upadhi, my body mind, has come from Atma? We will agree that the Jiva is not born. But what about Jagat? Gaudapada Charya says, the birth of the body and elements out of Paramatma is not real birth. We are only seemingly born out of Paramatma's Maya Shakti. Maya has the power to create an unreal world. Now, I have reached Karika number 10. From Karika 10 to Karika 30, I'm going to summarize very quickly. And in 3 minutes, I'm going to summarize and I'm going to open up for discussion. Gaudapada Charya says, Jivatma is never born. Now he's coming from Karika number 11 to Karika number around 25, 26, 27, where he's using various shrutis, various scriptural texts. Many of them we are familiar, many of them we may not be familiar. And of course, Adi Shankara will add a lot of his own shruti quotations to enhance this, to say how nothing is born from Paramatma. We have to say Jivatma is identical to Paramatma. So nothing can be born from Paramatma because Paramatma is Paramarthika, it is infinite, and nothing can come from the infinite. So all the Vakyas that come are all Mahavakyas. And in our scriptures, we have many Mahavakyas. And there are many beautiful Mahavakyas which come from Brahmananda Valli. You remember we have studied this. Om Brahmavid apnoti param tadesha satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo vedanetam guhayams. Now, in this, very soon, there are certain Mahavakyas. There are Panchakosha, Viveka, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. And then he says, within the Anandamaya Kosha is the Atma, which is none other than Brahman. Like this, from the Taittiriya Upanishad, and then we have, we will go to Madhu Brahmana. Madhu Brahmana means the Brihadaranya Upanishad. In Brihadaranya Upanishad, all these chapters are called Brahmanas. In Madhu Brahmana, there is another quotation which Gaudapada Charya uses, Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. And then the Purvapakshi comes. Purvapakshi comes now. See, you are cheating. You are doing a selective quoting. You're quoting only Mahavakyas to prove your point. But I can give you hundreds of Shrutis quotings which talk of Jivatma, Paramatma, Veda. For example, Ishavasya Upanishad comes as the 40th chapter in that particular Veda. 39 chapters become Veda Purva, 40th chapter is Veda Anta. Veda Anta talks about Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. In 39 chapters, I am small, I have to do various karmas, I have to do various upasana. So the entire Veda Purva, I'm not 95% of all our Vedas talk of Jivatma, Paramatma, Veda. So the Purvapakshi is ready to give you all those quotations to say, not true, I can give you so many quotations to say the Vedas themselves speak about Jiva and Paramatma Veda. And then what happens if you go to the Upanishads also, and in the Upanishads also, initially they will say, Isha Vasimidam Sarvam and all that. But then they bring in the topic of creation. See, Etasma Jayate Prana, from that Atma comes Akasha, Vayu, Agni. So from that Brahman, all this, and it is not the Veda Purva, it is your Veda Anta that is giving you. How are you going to justify? And the whole of these 30 verses, Gaudapada Charya is going to very clearly tell you, now what is the primary teaching of the Vedas and what is the secondary teaching? In this, I think Karika number 13, there is one verse which talks about Gauna. Gauna means secondary. So there is a primary teaching and there is a secondary teaching. The primary teaching is Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. But then to reach that height, to get Jnana Yogyata, the first 39 chapters will give you Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga. Now, whenever you are starting a journey, you want to go to Paramarthika, but where are you? You are in Vyavahara. From this level, you have to go to that level. Certainly from Vyavahara, you cannot go to Paramartha. Why? Because these are two different planes. The fact is, I am already Paramartha, but I do not know. And I believe I'm in Vyavahara. So my teacher has to uncloud that wrong beliefs that I have got. So the teacher will initially accept that I am a jiva, I am a limited being, take you in the triangular format. So initially the words used is out of compassion. The teacher will accept you as a jiva, give you various sadhanas to take you there and so on. So this will be the first part of the Vedas. Then when you come to Upanishads, why is the same thing come to the Upanishads? And there you will say, the Upanishads talk about it for Adhyaropa Apavada. I have spoken about this multiple times. What is this Adhyaropa Apavada? Now you have that Taded, that Satyam, Yat Sudipta, Pavakad, Vispulingaha. Can you see that bonfire? So many sparks come. So too, Tasmad, Etasmad, Akasha. So these are all topics which talk about creation. But then the teacher will say, Gaudapada Acharya clearly will say, now these are Gauna. These are not the primary teaching. They are used initially for Jnana Yogyata or it is for Adhyaropa Apavada. Now you remember that 17 elephant story, that the particular king had 17 elephants which have to be divided among, then how to divide the elephants in the form of half, 1/3 and 1/6 and so on. So you add the 18th elephant. So this is what is called Adhyaropa Apavada. When you deliberate superimposition, you bring in the creation and then you do Apavada, you do a negation. So this is how the teaching goes. And ultimately, you will come to the Apavada. Apavada is like na jayate mriyate va neha nanasti kinchana. The ultimate teaching is there is really nothing. Now, I'm looking at Karika number 16. In Karika number 16, he says ashrama trivida. There are 3 forms of ashrama. What is the 3 ashramas? We know 4 ashramas, but this is a very special 3 ashrama. What is these 3 ashrama? The same teaching says 95% of us are not ready for Advaita. So therefore, there is Trivida ashrama. They call it Hina, Madhyama and Utkrishta. Because the students are at different levels. Hina means low, Madhyama means intermediate, Utkrishta. And all these are still Upasakas only. You take them from Ekarupa, Anekarupa, Arupa, teach them to make Upasana on space, and finally you bring them to, so Anukampa. Can you see this word Anukampa? The last word in this, Anukampa means out of compassion. So there will be a gentle transition from Dvaitam to Advaitam, even though from the Karika number 17 to 22, it is she will go a little out of the topic. Now, why this out of this topic? That means the topic now is scriptural negation of Jiva and Jagat. That is the main topic. And Swamiji says this comes as an interruption. Why this interruption? Because here he is again reinforcing the idea that you have to move from Dvaitam to Advaitam. He does it very gently but firmly. He says use Dvaitam, but be ready to transcend. He criticizes, he said, if you are in the state of Dvaitam, then you become a fanatic. You will say, my Krishna, my Shiva, my Rama, and they are not open to anything. So Dvaitam is finite and has limitations. So gradually be open to all these teachings. So there are a lot of limitations which will come to Dvaitam. And the other is very logical. And the logical limitation is, how can the finite become the infinite? Really, there is no corridor. If you say Brahman is really differentiating to the creation, it will mean the infinite has become the finite. The changeless has become the changing. That which is beyond time has come into time. So he will give you reasoning to say the infinite can never become the finite. And I'm going to stop here. There is a nice quotation from the Purusha Sukta. The Purusha Sukta, many of you chant every day. The word goes, Ajaya mano bahuda vijayate. Ajaya mano. Without really producing the world, it seems that multiplicity has come out. There is multiple. So there is a seeming multiplicity. Ajayamana bahuda vijayate. So I'm stopping now. I will still keep my slides, or I will stop my projection. I'm open for interaction. The recording can continue for some more time.
Heavy load, sir.
Yes, Vinayakan, can we have some discussion? We can have about
Sir, this negation of Jivatma and Jagat, and this last point, scriptural negation, is it the same, or by introducing Maya, or what is that?
exactly what we know, whatever we know, both Adi Shankara and Gaudapada Acharya, see, they will bring in Mahavakyas to tell you that Jivatma and Paramatma is the same. And the whole Jagat is negated by bringing in the concept of Maya. So Advaita Vedanta will negate the Jagat. So there is nothing really new, but it is a reinforcement of the old in a very, very strong, systematic, powerful manner, bringing in logic and scripturals for us to be ready for the binary format.
Okay. Heavy load, sir. I think once again need to listen the initial part. Thank you.
Please go through this. We will have a class next week. In the next week, I will give you the orientation to what is the rest of this chapter, but we can certainly go a little deeper into what we have done already.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one thing I noticed, can I say, sir? In those 5 misconceptions about Jivatma and the Jagat, for Jivatma, you said if one Jivatma in the dosha, impurity of the body space in companion, if one Jivatma is has sorrow, then all other Jivas are considered sorrow. But then Jivatma is a bliss, he is Ananda. He should consider himself Ananda. That means everybody has to be Ananda, no? All Jivatmas. How do you?
I have not got your question. See, your question is, how can the Atma be sorrowful, no?
Yeah, correct.
Again, the Maya, because Maya deludes us from the fact that I am Parabrahma, Paramatma. When because of the Upadhi, I identify with the limited body mind. And in this limited body mind, I have only limitations and only problems. And there can be no permanent solution for this particular problem. I solve one problem, I have another problem. So as Jivatma, as a limited being, problems galore because of ignorance. Yeah, what is that nice word in the Bhagavad Gita? Ajnanenu tu jnanam avratam tena muhyanti jantavaha. All beings are deluded. Why? Because of ignorance. I do not know I am that total space. I think I am bound, but I'm like that pot space. I don't have to die to become the total. I don't have, the pot has to break because the pot is only seemingly there. See that, Sukanya?
Yes, sir.
Hari Om, sir. To add to this, the contents of the pot does not affect the space in the pot space. Like that, the Papa Punyas, what we have done, merits and demerits, is not affecting the consciousness.
Ghatakasha. It does not affect.
Yeah, Ghatakasha.
It does not affect consciousness because all papa, punya, and all come from the vyavahara plane.
Yeah.
In the Paramarthika, there is na punyam, na papam, na saukyam, na dukkham, na mantro, na
Yeah.
tirtham. See,
Yes.
Ramaji,
Yes, sir.
this moment transcend all that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
So
No other discussions?
it's a great mind shift, sir. It takes quite a while to reorient oneself. Logically, yes, I think I can comprehend and understand. But the mind is also limited. And also in the mind, it has to be understood that there is no second.
Dear Narayan, so
Yes,
your
yes, sir.
questions will be answered by Gaudapada in the next session. You know, he will answer the problem of the mind. See, the mind is my friend, my mind is my enemy. You see, as long as I'm fast asleep, I'm blissful. The moment I wake up, all my problems come into being. Therefore, we need to work on the mind. Now, in this particular karika, in this particular chapter, Advaita Prakarana, the next part deals with strengthening of the mind. Now, he will give you an example of how now you take the tip of a kusha grass. When you take a tip of the kusha grass, from that, how much ocean water you can take? That much drop, one drop. Imagine, can you make the ocean dry by trying to empty the water using a tip of a kusha grass? Now, just like Arjuna asked Sri Krishna, you know, my mind is chanchalaha. Whatever you're saying, I can agree, but with this mind, I cannot work. So, what does Sri Krishna says? Abhyasenu tu kaunteya. Abhyasa and then Vairagya and Abhyasa. So, Abhyasa means train your mind. How do you train my mind? Through spiritual wisdom. That means, he says, use your kusha. You be so persistent. And I'm sure in our class, Shankara Bhashyam they will tell the story of how the titri bird had laid its eggs on the seashore.
Sure.
And the ocean comes and takes away the eggs. And the titri bird is fighting with the ocean for the eggs. And it is using its beak to empty the ocean. It is fighting against the ocean. Now, it is persistent, and seeing its persistence, what happens? Garuda Devata comes to its rescue and uses his fans to evaporate the ocean and retrieve its eggs. That means, if a person has that kind of determination, you will have that. You know, what we are talking about is Mount Everest. We are talking about Gauri Shankar. We are talking about the peak. And tell us, see, our effort will be 1%. Bhagwan's, although I'm saying we are in Advaita, you will get help from 99%. Let us make 1% effort for mano nigraha, mano laya to mano nashaha. That means I am going to be the master of my mind. And through a wise mind, I come to what is called amanee bhava. That means I have a mind, just like my mobile phone is working right now, but it is not disturbing me. It is serving me. So the mind will serve me, but I can keep it on silent mode. I can make my mind my servant, but not my master. Second topic is about, in the next class, we'll talk about nididhyasana. Now, the same teaching is tat chintanam, tat katanam, anyon, tat prabodhanam. And then you'll remember, no, Gaudapada Acharya brings about 4 enemies, laya, vikshepaha, kashaya, and then one more. Laya, vikshepaha, rasa. Yeah, all those things will come in the next class. One last question. If there is no last question, I will ask Venkatesh Prasad to conclude. I'm not going to bring in the slide, but please conclude with the Shanti mantra, please.
Only Shanti mantra is enough, sir. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.
Anything else you want to say, Venkatesh? You want to make any announcement or any comments?
Yes,
Please.
we can close the recording, sir, then we can.
All right. You can still do it. We can cut
Yes,
it.
sir. Just next Thursday at 6 o'clock, we'll have the second session, that announcement.